My daughter's napping right now, and if I use my miter saw, it will wake her up for sure. So I'm gonna use hand tools, and I'm terrible with hand tools, but terrible equals rustic equals trendy equals good. So really, terrible equals good in this case. Okay, so the coffee shelf today is going to be 14 1/4 inch high and 14 inches wide. It's going to have 2 shelves, each 4 inches in height. The material is 3/4 inches thick. It's pretty important when you're using hand tools that everything is square, or as square as you can possibly make it. So by using my combination square, I can do just that. But cutting it with a handsaw is going to be a whole other thing entirely. Let's see how this goes. I'm using a Japanese Ryoba saw, and while it may sound expensive, it was only 18 bucks. And it comes with a cross cut and a rip cut side, so you get more bang for your buck. A rip cut is when you cut along the grain, while a cross cut is when you cut across the wood grain. I don't have a vise or anything, so I'm using just a normal clamp that you can get at Lowe's or Home Depot. This is the best one. And this is the worst one. But luckily, I have a handful of tools that will help me appear to suck less. So now I'm just using the biggest chisel I have to remove that excess material the best I can. Later on, I'll sand it. Right now I'm marking down 4 inches and then 3/4 inches and then another 4 inches and then 3/4 inches. This way, when I go to place the shelves, I know exactly where they need to go. I've got this steel wool and vinegar stain that I made like 6 or 8 months ago. I'm gonna apply this to my wood and see what happens. It probably smells fantastic. I almost always sand before I stain a piece, but because this is a rustic project, nothing matters at all. Oof. One thing you'll notice is that while I'm applying this, it looks like nothing is happening. But if you give it some time, it'll change dramatically. I made a supply run at Lowe's and Walmart last night, and I found these $8 coasters. I'm not sure what horses have to do with coasters, but whatever. I cut my shelves too short, so I'm going to have to remake the shelves. I found this really sweet Susan G. Komen tape measure, so this is my new thing. From this point forward, Susie G is my girl, and there's nothing that her and I can't measure under 25 feet. Using a sanding block with 80 grit paper doesn't really matter, but the coarse stuff is better if you're really bad at using hand tools. As I mentioned in my last video, I like to sand down the edges so they look a little bit more finished. I'm just using the same sandpaper to sand all the edges. Just going to put a bead of glue on each piece and then clamp them together. The more clamps you have, the better, but If you didn't have any clamps, you could just push them together the best you can, and they should probably be fine. So as always, I ran out of clamps the size that I needed, and I didn't want to get my bar clamps out because those are like super overkill. So I'm gonna have to resort to other measures. I set my Craig jig to 3/4 inch material, and along with the drill bit, I'm drilling 3 holes 2 inches from each side and 1 in the center point of each shelf. We're going to use 1 1/4 inch pocket screws to attach the shelves to the back of the unit. I'm going to use wood filler to fill in the holes just in case. For like $1.60 each at Lowe's, I found these cool hooks. I measured 2 inches from each side and 2 inches from the bottom shelf, and then I centered the third hook. I probably should have waited to put these on till after I clear coated, but I have no patience, so I'll just mask them out with some painter's tape. Once the shelves were finished, I felt like something was missing, so I'm gonna make some decorative end pieces for the top shelf. And then I'm gonna draw a half circle to make it look nice. You can tell I'm being pretty indecisive about this one. Then I'm gonna use my jigsaw and try and cut this. I used this thing like twice. I needed a round surface to sand the inside of this half circle, so I used my glue bottle. And it's not perfect, but it'll do. You could probably get away with not clamping these, but I mean, it's always better to clamp things that are gluing. So if you have them, you should do it. If you don't, then I wouldn't sweat it. I mean, you could always screw in or use brad nails from the bottom or top. Just be creative. This isn't like the only way to do this. My wife actually thought I was gonna put this in the house, but I'm definitely keeping it in the garage. So I found these jars at Walmart, and I'm gonna use them for cinnamon, sugar, and nutmeg. None of which I use in my coffee, but they look really trendy. So, little presentation thing going on here. It's a good day today. Got supplies last night. Wife's working from home, got me coffee, but she went to the wrong coffee shop. And I hate to nitpick, but we are in the coffee capital of the United States. And this is like a cup of muck. I'm appreciative, but 5 minutes in the other direction and you get some primo Poverty Bay coffee. You check it.